Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Today's Business Leaders. Today, I'm very excited to have Robin Westerlund on the show. He is going to be talking about one of the things that I believe is really ignored in the entrepreneurial space. It's ignored as business owners, and it's something that's really powerful, really important. I'm not going to give it away, but it's something that if you're an entrepreneur and you really want to achieve maximum performance and results, this is going to be a show for you. So stay tuned, and we're going to dive right into it. All right. Good morning, Robin. I'm glad you're here today. I know it's a little bit later in the day there in Finland, but welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Yeah. So it's actually 5 p.m. over here, but yeah.
Awesome. Yep. Well, I've enjoyed. We connected on Facebook a while ago, and I've enjoyed everything that you've been posting and sharing, and we're going to get into that shortly. But before we do, tell me when you first realized that you were an entrepreneur.
I would say I was 13 years old. I saw some exotic cars and some big houses, and I thought like, I want that. And I didn't really know how to get there then, but I just knew one day I want that. And I asked my parents actually, like, what do those people do? Like, how can they afford that? And they told me that they ran their own businesses and things like that. So my dad is actually a small business owner. Like, he's a farmer, so he's a small business owner, but not a like entrepreneur. But he's so I kind of got it a little bit from him, I would say. And I also learned pretty quickly that if I want to work as hard as my dad did as a farmer, I would like to be rewarded more for it than he was. So farm work it's mostly work, not so much pleasure or money. So
yeah.
I think
it's definitely a tough industry to be in. We've had clients there before, and I've had friends there, and farmers are incredibly hardworking people that definitely deserve the respect they get, I think.
yeah, for sure.
So when you were 13 and you realized, oh, like I want more, there's more, I feel like I have more potential. Was that kind of the spark of any ideas? Did you end up trying to do anything entrepreneurial as a kid, or was it something that you kept kind of in the background until later in your life?
Yeah, it was in the background for a couple of years. Then when I was in high school, we had this course where we could try to create our own company and try to make it to make some profits from it. It didn't go really well, but I learned some things. And then from then on, I've tried different business endeavors, like sold cookies, sold whatever you could sell, things like that. And I would like to say I've always been a people person, so I enjoy being around other people. So the selling part wasn't a problem, but the the structure and all the tech stuff, all the stuff that you need to do to run a successful business. Yeah, I wasn't as good at that. So yeah.
Yeah. I think we all start there. I know when I was a teenager and had small business ideas and, side projects and things like that, I was pretty similar actually, because it's easy to think early in our entrepreneurial journey that if we understand sales, then we got it all covered. But as you learned, as I learned the hard way too, there's so much more to business than just sales and marketing. In order to really have a sustainable business, you have to invest in the back end. You have to invest in delivery. You have to have infrastructure and a team and a process where you can deliver, the promises that you give when you're selling. And I think that is one of the trends that I see in entrepreneurship today, which I disagree with and makes me sick, is when people say, oh, all you have to worry about is sales and marketing. Everything else will take care of itself. And that is the way, unfortunately, I've seen companies, have massive lawsuits, get in trouble with the FTC, have massive problems because they foolishly think that that's only one one dimension of the business that matters. Is if you have sales and marketing, you should be good to go. But in reality, sales and marketing has to grow alongside of like delivery and operations, and we have to work on multiple areas of a business at once. It's not just one thing, or it would be a lot easier. And so the other thing that I'm really excited to talk to you about today, and I want to kind of learn how you got into this space as well, is that the things you post and talk about is really what attracted me to you and wanted, made me want to have on the show, because you are very aligned with what I believe around being an entrepreneur, that if you really want to grow successfully as an entrepreneur, it takes a holistic look at our personal life and our self-care and how we show up for ourselves. Because if we don't show up for ourselves and take good care of ourselves, we can't perform, we can't lead well. We're going to create toxicity in our bodies, in our relationships, and, all sorts of places like that. And so when you started talking about just the critical importance of sleep for entrepreneurs and for leaders, that's where I really said, we need to have a conversation about this on the show so that people understand that. And so I'm curious, from trying all the different business ideas and learning that, delivery and operations are just as important as selling, from that stage, what led you into really focusing on serving entrepreneurs around their sleep habits and understanding that?
Yeah. So I from a quite early age understood like the importance of sleep for me. Like I didn't really struggle with it. Just when I was a teenager and played Call of Duty, maybe I maybe skipped it a bit. But besides from that, I have this benefit of like the second I lay my head down on the pillow, I fall asleep. And from a young age, people have been like, "Oh, I'm so jealous at that." Like, and I didn't think about that. I was like, "Yeah, I guess I'm lucky,"
Yeah.
And but when I started like study personal development and things like that, read about mindset, read about how like I started searching for something I could do, something, my passion basically, because I knew I wanted to run a business. I didn't really know in what niche or like what to do. And then I found this, it was like mental performance coaching education here in Finland. And I was like, holy shit, this is exactly for me, because I've been an athlete my entire life. I watch a lot of sports. And I thought like, if I can help athletes perform better, I want to do that. So I paid for the education. I went through it. And under the education, I understood that like, I went into school because I wanted to help people with mindset. But I learned quickly that I could also help them to sleep, because sleep is many times about like our habits. Sleep is a habit basically. So when people say they struggle with their sleep or they have bad sleeping routines, they're basically saying they have bad habits. But many people don't connect those two. They think just because you are asleep, when you're sleeping, it's something else, but it's habits. So I learned how the brain works. I learned how to optimize our brain to our advantage basically. And I got this idea one day that I maybe could try to get people to sleep better as well. So I started to do a lot of research about, is sleep as big of an issue as I think it is? And the answer is no, it's much bigger. So it's like 9 million people in the US alone need to take sleeping pills every night to be able to fall asleep. So that's like every night, not once in a while. So I kind of like decided all this information I've learned about the brain and sleep, mindset and sleep, I will try it out on some people. So I sent some messages on Facebook to some friends and said, you knew me for a long time. You were excited when I started this education. I want to try what I've learned on you and see if it works. And I had 3 people say yes. All the 3 people got really great results, like from 2 coaching calls, and I was like, holy shit, this works. Would you like to pay me on a monthly retainer and work with me so we can do more of what I just did for you for free? And everyone was like, yeah, of course. But you never asked. I was like, yeah, that one's too easy, I've been running businesses before, and getting clients shouldn't be that easy. So I got off to a really good start. This was in 2019.
Nice.
Yeah. So I got off, like, I feel like I got off maybe too easy. So, so of course it hasn't been like all sunshine and rainbows since that. I've I've had to do the back end stuff, the thing that I call the boring stuff that we talked about in the beginning. But I understand the importance of it. Like to build a business that is running for a long time, I need to focus on other things than just sales and customer satisfaction. So yeah, here we are.
Yeah. That's excellent. Yeah. And I think you took a really wise approach. The first $1 million product I launched, or it was kind of like a productized service as well. I took the same approach. I reached out and said, let's deliver some value. Let's solve a problem and let's see if you like it. And then you can pay us if you want to. And I think that's a much healthier approach to sales and marketing when we don't fully know how we're going to deliver. It's better to show up and add value and do something either free or with a money back guarantee, or a way that we're protecting that person that's investing their time and of course their money. And that's a really healthy way to make sure that you can deliver on what you want to market and sell. So I think that's a wise approach. Tell me a little bit about what kind of big discoveries and aha moments occurred when you started that coaching and people got great results. Like, what kind of things were you teaching them about? Because I totally agree with you. Sleep is a habit. It's something that I've struggled with off and on over the years. It's something that I keep working on and improving and, trying to improve. But to be honest, I haven't run into a lot of sleep coaches. So I was just super excited to hear kind of what your process looks like. If you can share some of the things that you teach and what helped you get those early results for people, and what are the things that you're doing now today that really help people sleep more effectively?
Yeah, for sure. So the first thing I did, like with the first client, the first thing I did to improve his sleep was to tell him to stop using the cell phone in the bedroom. So that was like the first coaching call. It was like, yeah, you shouldn't really scroll on YouTube or Instagram or whatever in your bed. Like, can you give me 1 week when you don't do that and tell me how it went?
Yeah.
And the next coaching call, he was almost crying because he was like, I haven't slept this well in 20 years. I was like, huh? What if you try to make the bedroom darker? And he tried that, and he slept even better. So it was these small, really simple things actually. That's like how it started, and that's why I was shocked myself, because I was like, these are like common sense things. Keep the bedroom dark, don't use your phone in the bed, keep it quiet, keep it a little bit colder than the rest of the rooms in your house. That's the foundation. If you do all of these, your sleep will improve, like for sure. I've tried this on many, many clients after that first one, and it works for everyone. If you follow those, your sleep will improve. If you already do all of those and you still struggle with sleep, then it might be like a deeper rooted problem. It could be stress. It could be whatever. It could be that you have been using sleeping pills, things like that. But I would say those things I mentioned are the foundation for sure.
Yeah. So not using your phone in the bedroom, so you're not, activating your brain and getting all that light in our eyes and everything as well. Keeping it dark and keeping it cool. Those are definitely important things. And with how many clients have you worked with over the last 4 years approximately? I'm curious.
Around 40.
Awesome.
So yeah.
And I'm curious because I know even you just saying like, don't take your cell phone in the bedroom makes me a little anxious. Like what I'm sure you probably dealt with that with your clients. Like, how have you talked them through like giving that a try to get the result that they want? And what are the struggles like from the mindset perspective that happen when somebody goes, oh, I'm going to be disconnected, or like somebody calls me, or like I've thought through those things and I don't think I've always made the best decisions around that. So I'm curious how you lead people through that.
Yeah. Great question. That's the first question I always get when I tell people to don't use the phone. But what if someone calls? What if someone dies? And then my question in return is, how many times at night have somebody called you in the last 2 years? It's like, usually people are like, yeah, 0. But my mom called me once in 2002. She was worried, and that's basically.
Yeah.
So you like if you have a really strong discipline, you can actually have your phone in the bedroom, but you can't use it in your bed. So you can have it like on the other side of the bedroom, let's say. And I would recommend to have only like the people closest to you, the people that you like can accept if calls you in the middle of the night. Only those have access to call between, let's say, 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. or whenever you go to bed. So that's one option. What I usually recommend is because if people take their phone into the bedroom, they are going to use it. So what I usually recommend is have the phone outside of the bedroom and start using an old school alarm clock if you need that to wake up.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I like what you just said. Like, how many times have people called you in the middle of the night in the last couple of years?
Yeah,
it's maybe once or twice, maybe, right? No, people typically don't do that, and you're right, because we have an attachment to something that's never going to happen, and so it's good to just actually look at the actual facts and stats around that. What happened? Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. No, I was going to say it's not your fault that you're so attached to it either, because that's how all social media is. It's created to make us addicted. It's basically like playing the slots in Las Vegas. It's the same system. So I'm also addicted to my phone, but I try to like be addicted on my waking hours, so it doesn't interrupt my sleep. so it's actually not our fault. It's the people that create the social media apps and things like that. But it's a modern problem for sure.
Yeah, let's dig into that a little bit more, because I've read that and understand that too. And like, I don't have a problem with social media, companies wanting to make everything super engaging and get us attract us and have us on there. I mean, that's how we met. That's how I met some of my best friends. And it's like, it's definitely a super positive tool, but when it's taken too far, it can definitely, damage our productivity, our sleep, and a lot of things. So obviously the design and psychology of how apps are made is intended to make us, enjoy them, become addicted to them, whatever level of engagement. What other things happen when we're using a phone, like at bedtime, when it's supposed to be dark and cool and we're not supposed to have that? What are the other impacts that we have, like physiologically, when we're using a phone?
Mm-hmm. So there are a couple things, there are quite many things, but I can give you a couple at least. It's when all the time when you're using social media or reading your email or whatever you're doing, scrolling, you are like playing on other people's terms. So if you're reading your emails, you are worrying about other people's problems when you should be sleeping. And your brain, like when you're asleep, your brain is not like you don't shut off your brain and go to sleep and it doesn't work. It's still running in the background. So what happens when you're looking at your phone, your brain doesn't really even go into sleep mode. Like it doesn't go into do not disturb mode. It just keeps trying to solve the problem. So you can't be on your phone and expect the brain to shut up, like to give you sleep. It won't, because one, you get light from the screen, so it thinks it's daylight, and two, you are like stressing over things that are happening. Or even if you are looking at funny cat videos or whatever, like you shouldn't be laughing when you should be sleeping. When you're sleeping, you should be sleeping, resting. You shouldn't be involved into deep, like a lot of feelings, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. Yeah, I've definitely read a lot about like the light effect. So I use red blackout glasses at night, which helps kind of, get me on track. I'm curious, is television the same thing in the bedroom, do you think? Or have you studied that? Is like watching TV the same thing as being on your phone? Is it less? Is it more? Do you recommend not having that either? Or what are your thoughts there?
Great question. I've actually done quite much research about this as well, because it's a really common question. And I know a lot of people have TV in the bedrooms. TVs are better. Like if you have to choose between looking at your phone or the TV before you try to fall asleep, I would always recommend the TV, because it's further away from your eyes.
Okay.
But the thing many people do wrong with the TV is they tell me that they have to watch TV to be able to fall asleep. And this is like, if it's the only way you can fall asleep, okay, do it. It would be better if you would work with me, but like, I'm not going to tell you to throw out the TV. Do it, but you shouldn't have like the sound on when you do it, because if the sound is running in the background, you're not getting into deep sleep. Again, your brain is taking up the sound that comes from the TV, even if you are sleeping.
Yeah.
So you won't get the deep sleep, and when you wake up, chances are you will feel exhausted even though you spend 6 to 9 hours in bed, depending on how long you sleep. So that's like the common problem with having the TV on in the background when you sleep.
Yeah, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. I've also noticed a couple months ago, I got an Oura ring specifically to track my sleep. And after today's show, I am going to try leaving my phone not in the bedroom, because I think that's a great idea, and probably not watch TV either because I want to see the difference. But I've noticed that my HRV doesn't really. I don't know if you've studied heart rate variability when people are sleeping. Have you ever looked into that?
I haven't done it with my clients. I've done research like on my own about like the differences there, but I haven't done it with my clients. I don't like force or tell my clients to get any expensive gadgets or electronics, because I feel like I try to make them sleep naturally. So
no, I agree. So I'm curious what your opinion then is, because you've done some research around that. Is I noticed that I don't really get into deep sleep or have my HRV really get to a healthy spot, like more variability, until like 3 or 4 in the morning. And so I suspect that potentially, because if I'm using my phone or watching TV until 8:30 or 9 or even 9:30 at night, and then I go to sleep after that, how long have you seen in your research and what you've seen with your clients, how long does it take us from when we stop engaging in with our phone, or maybe in watching TV, but specifically like our phone, how long does it actually take our brain to disconnect and wind down and go into sleep mode? Because I'm assuming that's probably part of what makes my first few hours more disruptive than they could be.
Yeah, it might very well be that. I would say at least 2 hours before bed. You should that, like, if you use electronics after that, which I know most people do, at least use it in some night mode or something like that, so you don't get the brightest light from the screen that time of the day. Because as we mentioned, the problem with getting light at night is your inner clock will tell you that, oh, it's midday, so we can't, like, our body doesn't really understand that this is some artificial light, because our bodies work the same way as they did 10,000 years ago. So it can't tell the difference really.
That makes a lot of sense. So I'm excited to try that, because that makes sense that I'm probably triggering things I shouldn't, even though I have like blackout red glasses on and night mode on my phone and things like that. I'm still, what you said earlier was really helpful, because I'm still thinking about an email I read, or thinking about something I saw, or you're right, we get like emotionally engaged into things, or we create stress that we don't need to. What happens after somebody goes through working with you and changes their habits and does this? What kind of changes have you seen? Like, give me some stories or examples of what your clients have experienced when they follow your process.
Mm-hmm. So the first thing they always experience is they feel more well rested when they wake up in the morning, because many people stay the amount they should in bed, like they are in bed the amount that are recommended, between 6.5 and 8.5, depending on your personal needs and lifestyle. But so many people spend the time they need in bed, but when they wake up, they still feel exhausted. And this is exactly the thing you told me about. It's about not getting enough deep sleep, which usually happens when you are too stressed. You spend too much time online or whatever. It can be like 150 different reasons. But like what my clients always tell me when they start applying these things are that they feel more well rested when they wake up, which makes getting out of bed much easier. Getting how do I say it? They don't get late to work. The morning flows much easier if you feel well rested when you have to get up, of course. So that's like the first thing. And then at work or in their business, it's usually they feel more productive, because when you're sleep deprived, you can't this will sound really simple, but it's like most people don't think about it in this way. When you're sleep deprived, you can take the best decision, because when you're sleep deprived, the only thing your brain and body tries to tell you, like deep down, is you should get more rest. So in the background, your body is giving you like signals all the time, like you should take a power nap, stay in bed or whatever, go home, and if you're trying to take a lot of decisions which you have to do in business at the same time, you won't be able to take as good decisions as you would when you are well rested. So this is like I would say, if I have to choose one thing that is like the most important for entrepreneurs, especially, it's this. Like, if you want to become a better decision maker, fix your sleep first.
Yeah, I love that. I think you're right, because it's easy to ignore that we're avoiding decisions because we're tired, or we're pushing something off because we don't have the energy for it. And I like what you said there. Like, if it's always running in the background, like, oh, I don't feel like I got enough sleep, or I need to nap, or I need to avoid, mentally or physically strenuous, things I need to do, then that's slowing production, slowing results. It's slowing you from hitting your goals. All of those things suffer. And it's easy to just ignore and keep pushing, because we do, as humans, have the ability to like push through really difficult things, or like go through a difficult season. Or there's obviously seasons, like I remember when my son was very young, like he would wake me up a few times a night. That was totally normal. Like, we have the ability to overcome that stuff, which I think is normal and probably okay for a short season. But when we get into the habit of pushing that over and over, like you said, we're slowing our businesses down. Obviously, we're hurting our own body, and we're not really in peak performance. And that's why it's something that is so important, because it reminds me of like when I take time to plan my week and plan my day, I get a lot more done than if I just try to show up and wing it, and figure it out as I go. The same, feels true here, is if we're really investing in our health and our sleep, then everything gets easier and we can go a lot faster, even though it probably feels like, I know it feels like to me a little bit, it feels like you're slowing down if you dedicate more time to sleep, or if you change your habits there, or it feels like it would slow you down. But in reality, like you said, it's going to make a massive difference.
Yes. So. You had a few really good points there. I totally agree. And I like to like explain it in that way. Like, if you have to drive from the East Coast in the US to the West Coast, you have to stop for fuel somewhere. Yeah. And that's like the same with sleep. Like, if I want to go from where I am today to the best possible version of me in 2 years, I have to focus on my sleep, because otherwise I might accomplish it in 25 years otherwise. But why would I want it to take 25 years if it could take 5 or 10? It's ridiculous. Like, why do you want to destroy your car when you can just put fuel in it before you have destroyed it?
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
You mentioned a couple of times how like the amount of sleep that people need is to maybe like between 6 or 6.5 and 8 hours. With your clients, once they really follow the system and follow your coaching and use this new process, are they typically sleeping less then because they're sleeping better, or does it vary by person? I'm just curious about that, because that's something I've done some research on, but probably not at the level you have. So I'm curious, like, what you found of how do people determine how much sleep they need, and then when they're working with you, does that amount go down, or do they just get better sleep for the amount they're trying to sleep? I'm just curious around that.
Yeah, great question. So it usually goes down a little bit, but that's not like, let's say they spent 9 hours in bed before working with me. It's not they're gonna get away with 5 hours just by working with me. It doesn't really work like that. But sleep quality is really important, and as we talked about, like reaching REM and deep sleep is like the most important parts of your sleep. Mm-hmm. So studies show that people in like 14,000 can get away with like less than 6 hours of sleep and still perform at a normal level. But that's like 1 in 14,000.
Gotcha.
So all these hustle, I don't need sleep, I'll sleep when I'm dead, that's most likely bullshit. The problem with being sleep deprived is your body gets used to it. So, because it's a habit. So if you start taking cocaine or whatever, you will get used to it, and it will become an addiction. It's the same with being sleep deprived. You will get used to it if you do it long enough, but that doesn't mean it's good for you, your health, your business, or anything else. So the amount of sleep my clients usually get on an average is 7 hours and 15 minutes. But this is also, it depends from person to person. Okay. Let's say it's a professional athlete that trains a lot. They might need a little bit more for their muscles to be able to rest when they're sleeping and things like that. if it's someone that doesn't have like a mentally exhausting job or like mentally challenging, or they just, have a normal job, then they can get away with a little bit less. It kind of depends on like what your lifestyle looks like. So it's really, it's like, I don't know if it's funny or sad, but like when entrepreneurs tell me, yeah, I sleep 4 hours because I have so much to do. It's like, that's like me trying to win the gold medal in the Olympics on 100-meter sprint, and I cut my left leg off because I want to be able to run faster. I take away body weight, and now we're able to run faster. It's like, yeah.
That's a good analogy. I agree. It's crazy. It's crazy what we can allow ourselves to do, or who we allow us to influence us, and we think things like that. Because you're insane if you think that you're actually going to get anywhere by not taking care of your body. I always tell people, self-care is the ticket to 7 figures. You're never going to do 7 figures sustainably if you're not actually taking great care of yourself, because you are the engine, you are the driver, you are the person moving the business forward. So if you don't take care of yourself, whether it's good sleep, good exercise, drinking water, being in healthy relationships, there's so much of that impacts, where we're going to go. Around, obviously I agree with you, like sleeping, 3 or 4 hours a night, which I did in my 20s, which is a terrible idea. Won't move you forward. It'll just put you on edge. It'll make you more of a toxic leader in your business. I mean, there's so many negatives from that. How, when you move people out of that into healthy sleep, and you said, was it 7 hours and 15 minutes or 5? Okay. Yeah. So you're saying like they average about that. How does somebody determine when they go through this and they change their sleep habits, they're leaving their phone, not in the bedroom, they have an old school alarm clock, they're not watching TV at night, if they're following everything that you're recommending and they're getting better sleep, how do they make that determination of how much sleep they should get? Like, how long does it take to settle into healthy sleeping? Typically, I know it varies by client, I'm sure, but on average, like, how long does it take to get into a healthy sleep pattern? And then how do you determine when you should go to bed and how many hours you should get for sleep?
Yeah, a really good question. So if we start with like when to go to bed, that depends on when you need to wake up. Like if you have to be at work at 7 a.m., you should go to bed so you get it's good to start with like 8 hours in mind. There are very few people in the world that need more than 8 hours.
Okay.
But like 8 hours is like a good start, because your body will start waking you up earlier, like by itself. If you do all these things that we talked about, your body will start waking you up earlier by itself if you don't need the full 8 hours, usually around 7 hours. So I wake up without an alarm clock basically every day. Like if I have to catch a flight, I put like a safety alarm, I call them, just to make sure that I don't miss the plane. But it's like, it's like clockwork, because it is our natural clock. So it wakes me up at the same time every morning. And it's like, when I wake up, I don't really have to watch, like I don't have to see what time it is, because I know, because I've been waking up the same time for, what is it, like 18 months now. So so the question you had, like how you determine how much you need, is if you wake up and feel exhausted, like we talked about, that's like you haven't slept enough, or you haven't slept deep enough. But if you wake up and feel like sluggish, you just feel slow. I'm not sure if you like can tell the difference I'm trying to make it, but one is like you're just sleep deprived. You're like, oh, I would do anything to be able to sleep more. And the other one is like, oh, I feel like when you take a power nap and wake up, you can be a little bit like sluggish. You feel a little bit drunk, So then you usually have slept too much. That's like more than 8 hours, 9, 10 hours. And you feel it takes much longer for your brain to wake up, because you have been sleeping for too long. So that's possible as well. But like the how they say, where you want to aim to be is between 7 and 8 hours. That's I have yet to find someone that like everyone I've worked with at least have between 7 and 8 hours is like their golden amount of hours.
Yeah, I'm glad you distinguished there too between like just being exhausted and wanting to go back to sleep, and being more like in a fog or sluggish when you sleep too much. Because I know what you mean. Like on the weekend, sometimes take a nap or whatever, wake up, you're kind of like out of it. But No, just for that. So that's a good distinction, and that's a good point of like that. Then you've overslept.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really interesting. Well, I think that's all really, really helpful advice, Robin. I was really excited to have you on because I feel like everyone in my audience and just the entrepreneurial community in general needs to hear more about how to really take great care of ourselves. Because just like you said, if you drive across the country, you don't put gas in your car, you're clearly not going to get where you're going. But somehow we think we can do that to our bodies, and it doesn't work. So for those of you listening in and watching, I would encourage you to check out Robin's Facebook profile. That's where you can follow him. It's facebook.com/robin.westerlund.7. And so I got that up for those watching the video, but those listening to the audio version, you can check that out as well. I definitely encourage everybody to take the advice that Robin shared today and apply that and reach out to him if you're stuck or you're struggling with it, because this is something that is absolutely critical in our success in our life in general. But of course, as entrepreneurs, we make so many decisions every day, and we have so much on our plate. It's important that we take great care of ourselves. And so I appreciate you being here today, Robin. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we wrap up here today?
First and foremost, thank you for having me. It was an absolute pleasure. I can share like what my mantra in business is. This is like specific. It's especially for entrepreneurs. So it's productive, not busy. So you should focus on like being productive, not playing the busy. Like you can't tell me the excuse, I'm so busy, I don't have time to sleep. That to me, that means that like you are not being productive enough. Because if you would be productive enough, you would do the most important tasks, and then you would go home and spend time with your family, and then go to bed at a decent time. So yeah.
That's good advice. Be productive, not busy.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, we'll definitely have you back on in the future, Robin, to see where things are at in business and have you share more of your excellent advice here. I appreciate you taking time today, and thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. Have a great day.